Welcome to British Accent Podcast. Welcome back to British Accent Podcast, the show that helps you improve your English in a fun and practical way. I'm Emma, and today we're talking about a game changer in language learning studying with a friend.
That's right, Emma. Learning English doesn't have to be a solo journey. In fact, having a friend to practice with can boost your confidence, keep you motivated, and make the process way more enjoyable.
Absolutely. So, in this episode, we'll dive into why learning with a partner works so well, the best ways to practice together, and how to find a study buddy if you don't have one yet.
Sounds exciting. Let's jump right in.
So, Jake, let's start with the big question: why exactly is learning with a friend more effective?
Well, for one, it keeps you accountable. When you're learning alone, it's easy to procrastinate or get discouraged. But when you have a friend who's learning with you, you feel more responsible to show up, practice, and stay consistent.
That's so true. I think it also makes learning less stressful. A lot of people feel shy when speaking English, but when you're practicing with a friend, there's less pressure. You're not afraid of making mistakes because you're in a comfortable environment.
Exactly. And another benefit is that you get real, natural conversation practice. A lot of people study English through books or apps, but nothing beats actually speaking. With a friend, you can practice real-life conversations that you might have in a CF, at work, or while traveling.
Yes, and speaking of real conversations, role-playing different situations is a great way to practice. Like pretending you're ordering food at a restaurant or asking for directions.
I love that. It's practical and fun at the same time. Plus, you get instant feedback. If you mispronounce a word or say something in an unnatural way, your friend can help correct you.
That's so valuable, and sometimes, even just hearing another person's way of phrasing things can help expand your vocabulary and improve your fluency.
Right. It's like learning by exposure. You naturally pick up new phrases, different accents, and ways to express ideas just by listening to your friend.
And if your friend is a native speaker or more advanced than you, that's even better. You can learn from them without feeling like you're in a formal classroom.
Yeah, but even if you're both at the same level, you're still improving together. The key is to keep it fun and consistent.
Which brings us to the next point: how can people actually practice English with a friend in a structured way? Let's talk about some practical methods.
Great question. One of the best ways is setting a regular schedule. If you and your friend decide to practice every Monday and Thursday for 30 minutes, it becomes a habit, just like going to the gym.
Absolutely. And to keep things interesting, you can switch up activities. One day, you might focus on casual conversations, another day on pronunciation drills, and another on storytelling.
Oh, storytelling is a fantastic idea. You can pick a topic, like tell me about your dream vacation, and each person has to describe it in as much detail as possible. That way, you're working on vocabulary and fluency at the same time.
Yes, and if you want to challenge yourselves, try describing the same event in different tenses. For example, first in the past tense, then in the future tense.
I love that. Another idea is playing word association games. One person says a word, and the other has to say the first word that comes to mind. It helps with quick thinking in English.
Oh, and another great one is voice messages. Instead of texting each other, send voice messages in English. It's like mini speaking practice sessions throughout the day.
That's genius. And if you're feeling really ambitious, start a mini podcast together, just casual chats in English, recorded for fun. It'll help track your progress over time.
That's actually such a cool idea. And speaking of progress, let's talk about how to measure improvement when learning with a friend.
Great point. When you're learning with a friend, it's important to track progress so you stay motivated. One simple way is to record your conversations every few weeks and listen back to them.
Yes, it might feel awkward at first, but it really helps you notice improvements in pronunciation, fluency, and even confidence.
Another way is setting small goals together. Maybe this week, you focus on using 5 new phrases in your conversations. Next week, you could challenge each other to explain a short story in English.
That's a good one. Also, testing each other can be fun. You can do little quizzes or ask each other to describe objects around you without saying their name, kind of like a vocabulary challenge.
Oh, I like that. And let's not forget feedback. Since you're both learners, giving constructive feedback is key. Instead of just saying, "That was wrong," You can say, maybe try saying it this way.
Exactly, positive reinforcement works wonders. Celebrating small wins, like hey, you sounded supernatural today, keeps the motivation up.
For sure. And if you ever feel stuck, don't be afraid to mix things up. Maybe watch a movie together and discuss it in English, or even play online multiplayer games where you have to communicate in English.
Yes, the key is making it fun and consistent. The more you enjoy it, the faster you'll improve.
100. Learning English doesn't have to be a solo journey. Having a friend makes it more engaging and way more effective.
And another great thing about learning with a friend is that it reduces the fear of making mistakes. When you're in a classroom or talking to a native speaker, you might feel nervous, but with a friend, you're in a safe space to experiment and improve.
Exactly. Mistakes are a natural part of learning, and if you can laugh about them together, it makes the process way more enjoyable. Plus, you'll probably remember the correct way better after making a mistake and correcting it.
Right, and speaking of making things fun, role-playing real-life scenarios can be super helpful. For example, you can pretend you're ordering food at a restaurant, checking into a hotel, or asking for directions. It's a great way to practice in a low-pressure way.
That's such a good idea. And if you both have different strengths in English, you can help each other out. Maybe one of you is better at pronunciation, and the other is better at grammar. Learning together means you can teach each other.
Exactly. And one final tip: if you and your friend are serious about improving, you can try setting up an English-only day where you communicate only in English for 24 hours. It's a challenge, but it really pushes you to think in English.
Oh, I love that idea. It forces you to be creative with what you know and keeps you immersed in the language.
And the best part is, you don't even have to be in the same place. You can send voice messages to each other, have video calls, or even text only in English. That way, you're constantly using the language in different ways.
That's true. And with so many apps and tools available, you can make it even more fun. You can quiz each other, do vocabulary challenges, or even play online word games together. It keeps things exciting while still learning.
Yes, and don't forget about accountability. When you have a study partner, you're more likely to stick to your learning routine because you don't want to let your friend down. It's like having a workout buddy, but for language learning.
That's such a good point. Sometimes it's easy to get lazy when you're studying alone, but if you have a friend waiting to practice with you, you'll feel more motivated to keep going.
Exactly. So if you're struggling to stay consistent with your English practice, find a friend, make a plan, and start learning together. You'll be surprised at how much faster and easier it becomes.
And the cool thing is, you don't have to be at the same level. Even if your friend is a beginner and you're more advanced, teaching them actually helps you reinforce what you already know.
Yes, they say the best way to learn is to teach. And when you explain things to your friend, you're also improving your own understanding. It's like a win-win situation.
And don't worry if you both make mistakes. That's actually a good thing. You can correct each other and learn together. Plus, laughing about silly mistakes makes the process way more fun.
Absolutely, it takes the pressure off and helps you feel more confident. And confidence is key when learning a new language.
So, whether it's practicing dialogues, watching movies together, or even just chatting about your day in English, having a learning buddy makes everything more effective and enjoyable.
And if you don't have a friend who's learning English, don't worry. There are so many online communities and language exchange platforms where you can find a practice partner.
Yes, apps like Tandem, HelloTalk, or even joining Facebook groups for English learners can help you connect with people from all over the world.
And another great thing about learning with a friend is accountability. When you're studying alone, it's easy to procrastinate. But if you have a friend waiting for you, you're more likely to stay committed.
Exactly. You can set goals together. Like, let's learn 5 new words today. Let's only speak in English for 30 minutes. It turns learning into a fun challenge instead of a boring task.
And don't forget, you can make it even more interesting by playing language games. Things like word association, 20 questions, or even storytelling games help you practice without feeling like you're studying.
Yes, and if you're both competitive, you can turn it into a friendly contest, like who can use the most idioms in a conversation, or who can go the longest without using their native language.
That's such a good idea. Plus, celebrating your progress together makes it feel even more rewarding. Even small wins, like holding a 5-minute conversation without stopping, deserve a high five.
Absolutely. Learning English with a friend isn't just more effective, it's also way more fun.
And another cool thing is that you and your friend can give each other feedback. Sometimes we don't even realize our mistakes until someone points them out. Having a friend who corrects you in a supportive way can really help you improve.
Right. And it's not just about correcting mistakes. Your friend can also boost your confidence by telling you when you've done something well. A lot of people doubt themselves when speaking English, but having a friend say, "Hey, that was really good," can make a big difference.
Exactly. And speaking of confidence, practicing with a friend makes real-life conversations less intimidating. If you've already talked about a topic with your friend, you'll feel much more prepared when you need to discuss it with someone else.
That's a great point. It's like a practice run before the real thing. Plus, you get to experiment with new words and phrases without feeling embarrassed, because you're in a safe space.
And let's not forget the fun part: you can role-play different situations. Pretend you're ordering at a restaurant, booking a hotel, or even having a job interview. The more realistic the practice, the more comfortable you'll be in real life.
Yes, role-playing is such an underrated way to practice, and it's a great way to prepare for situations where you might need to think quickly in English.
That's the goal, right? To get comfortable thinking and responding in English naturally, without hesitation.
Right. And another way to make learning with a friend even more effective is to challenge each other. Maybe set a goal like, let's only speak in English for the next hour. Or let's describe things around us using new vocabulary words. Making it into a game keeps it interesting.
Oh, I love that idea. You can even do small competitions, like who can tell the funniest story in English, or who can explain a complex topic the best. It pushes both of you to improve while keeping things light and fun.
Exactly. Plus, when you're learning alone, it's easy to procrastinate. But if you have a friend counting on you, you're more likely to stay committed. It's like having a workout buddy, except for your English skills.
That's so true. It keeps you accountable and motivated. And the best part, you're learning naturally just by talking and having fun. It doesn't feel like studying at all.
Yep. And when something feels enjoyable, you're way more likely to stick with it and see real progress.
Another cool thing is that learning with a friend makes mistakes feel less intimidating. When you're alone, you might overthink every little error. But with a friend, you just laugh it off and keep going.
Absolutely. And you can correct each other in a supportive way. Sometimes, you don't even realize you're making a mistake until someone else points it out. And when you hear your friend speaking, you pick up on things too, like pronunciation, sentence structure, and even slang.
That's a great point. And speaking of slang, learning informal expressions together can be really fun. You can even quiz each other, like one of you says a phrase, and the other has to guess what it means.
Oh, I love that. Especially for things like idioms or phrasal verbs that don't always make sense just by looking at the words. Like, if I say hit the books, you know I don't mean literally hitting a book, right?
Yeah, it means to start studying seriously. See? This is exactly why learning with a friend works. You make it interactive and memorable.
Exactly. And another big advantage is accountability. If you're learning on your own, it's easy to say, "Oh, I'll practice tomorrow." But if you have a friend expecting you to practice with them, you're way more likely to stay consistent.
So true. It's like having a workout buddy. When you know someone else is counting on you, you don't want to let them down. Plus, it turns learning into a shared experience, not just another task on your to-do list.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be all serious study sessions. You can just chat in English about random stuff: movies, music, daily life. The important thing is that you are using the language in a natural way.
And the more you do it, the more confident you become. Even if you don't get everything right, just the habit of speaking regularly makes a huge difference.
Totally. And another fun idea is setting little challenges for each other. Like, today, we have to use at least 5 new vocabulary words in our conversation. Or let's only speak in English for the next hour. It keeps things interesting.
Oh, I love that. And it's a great way to push yourself outside your comfort zone while still having fun.
Exactly. And speaking of pushing yourself, Another great thing about learning with a friend is that you can correct each other in a way that feels natural. You don't have to feel embarrassed about making mistakes because you're both learning together.
Yes, and honestly, mistakes are just part of the process. If you correct each other in a friendly way, it actually helps things stick better. Like if I keep saying something wrong and you correct me, I'll eventually remember it.
That's the thing, learning from mistakes is one of the best ways to improve. And when you're learning with a friend, it's way less stressful than in a classroom where you might feel pressure to get everything right.
And let's not forget motivation. Learning a language takes time, and sometimes you feel stuck. But when you have a friend, they can remind you how far you've come and keep you motivated when you feel like giving up.
So true, language learning is a journey, and having someone to walk that journey with makes it more fun, more effective, and definitely less stressful.
Exactly, and when you practice with a friend, you can set little challenges for each other. Like, hey, let's only speak in English for the next 10 minutes, or let's describe everything we see around us in English. It makes learning feel like a game rather than a chore.
That's a great point. Plus, if you and your friend have different strengths, you can learn from each other. Maybe one of you is better at grammar, and the other has a stronger vocabulary. You can help each other fill in those gaps.
And let's not forget how much more confident you become. If you're used to speaking English with a friend, it won't feel as scary when you have to talk to a stranger or in a real-world situation.
Right, because you are already comfortable making mistakes, practicing pronunciation, and forming sentences in English. So when the time comes to speak with someone new, it doesn't feel like such a big deal.
And the best part, it's fun. Learning alone can feel lonely sometimes, but with a friend, you get to laugh, share experiences, and keep each other motivated. It makes the whole process feel less like studying and more like just hanging out.
Couldn't agree more. So if you're learning English and struggling to stay consistent, grab a friend and start practicing together. You'll be surprised at how much faster and easier it becomes.
And another bonus, you can correct each other. Sometimes, when we're learning alone, we don't even realize we're making the same mistakes over and over. But when you have a friend who's also learning, they can point things out, and you can do the same for them.
Exactly. And if you don't know the answer, you can figure it out together. That's way less intimidating than feeling like you have to know everything on your own. It's like having a study buddy who keeps you accountable, but in a fun way.
Plus, you can mix up the ways you practice. One day, you could have a casual chat. The next, you could watch a movie and discuss it in English, or even try writing short messages to each other in English throughout the day. The possibilities are endless.
Yeah, and that variety helps you improve in all areas: speaking, listening, writing, and even thinking in English. The more ways you engage with the language, the more natural it feels.
So, really, learning with a friend isn't just about practicing, it's about keeping things interesting and making sure you don't lose motivation along the way.
Absolutely. And the best part, you are not alone on your learning journey. You've got someone who understands the struggles and can celebrate the wins with you, no matter how small.
And let's not forget, learning with a friend can actually boost your confidence. Speaking in English can be nerve-wracking, especially if you're afraid of making mistakes. But when you practice with a friend, it feels more relaxed, and you start to gain the confidence to speak with others too.
That's such a good point. I've noticed that when people practice alone, they tend to hesitate more when speaking with strangers. But if you're used to chatting with a friend in English, it doesn't feel as scary anymore.
Right. And I think another fun way to make learning with a friend more effective is setting challenges for each other. Like, maybe one day you only speak English for an hour, or you each have to learn 5 new idioms and use them in conversation.
Oh, I love that. Gamifying your learning makes it more exciting. You could even create little rewards, like whoever wins the challenge gets a free coffee or something.
Yes, or even pretend you're in a different country and only communicate in English for the entire day. That way, you're simulating real-life situations, which is the best way to learn.
And at the end of the day, the most important thing is consistency. If you have a friend learning with you, you're way more likely to stay consistent and keep improving.
Exactly. Learning English with a friend isn't just about improving faster, it's about making the journey more enjoyable. When you have someone to share the experience with, it becomes less of a challenge and more of an adventure.
Absolutely. So if you're learning English right now, find a friend, set some fun challenges, and make it a team effort. You'll be surprised at how much progress you make together.
And that wraps up today's episode. If you enjoyed this discussion, don't forget to subscribe and share this with a friend who's also learning English.
And let us know, do you prefer learning English alone or with a friend? Send us a message or leave a comment. We'd love to hear your thoughts.
Thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you in the next episode of the podcast. Until then, keep learning, keep practicing, and most importantly, have fun.
See you next time.
Bye.